Hello and welcome. I'm Blanca Vergara, your host of the Parenting the Gods Conversations. And today we have a new guest with us. I am so delighted to have you here, Jane Bennett, all the way from Australia. Jane Bennett has such a curriculum and such a work. I am so honored to have you, Jane. And guys,
Great to be here.
oh, thank you, Jane, for being here. What is her subject and her work? Jane is a social worker, author, and educator who has worked for many years with women and couples seeking natural fertility management. Out of her passion for a natural positive approach to fertility has arisen her program for 10 to 12 years old girls and their mothers, a celebration day for girls. For fathers, fathers celebrating daughters, and girls in their mid-teens, cool on the inside. Jen now trains experienced facilitators internationally to offer these programs in their communities. Jane frequently speaks with parents groups about conversations about sexuality with young people. Jane is the author of A Blessing, Not a Curse, a mother-daughter guide to the transition from child to woman, and Girltopia, a world of real conversations for real girls, and co-author of the Natural Fertility Management Kits for Contraception and Conception with Francesca Naish, and The Pill, Are You Sure It's For You? With Alexandra Pope. You see why I'm so excited to have her here? Jane, welcome.
Thank you so much, Blanca. It's great to be with you.
Welcome. This is so exciting to have you here because, I forgot to mention that she is a mother of a lady, 27 years old woman, and also a stepmom of three sons, correct?
That's right, yes.
So that I guess is the opening to the next question. How did you get started with this subject?
I began this whole journey that I'm on and I'm still working with when I was a young woman, younger than my daughter is now. So I was around 26 and I had probably a very typical journey with contraception from my mid-teens. I had been on the pill, I had tried an IUD, and numerous things. And I had found I had real problems with the pill. I found I felt very, I felt depressed. I felt very emotional. I didn't feel right in myself. I had problems with the IUD. I had a lot of pain. A diaphragm I found fine. That worked fine for me. But then I learned about the natural fertility management methods, which are methods, they're fertility awareness methods. And I learned how to chart my cycle by observing the symptoms of my body. And the purpose for this was for contraception. And I had a new boyfriend. He was very keen also to use these methods, so that was very supportive. And they worked. I found within a month or two, I was starting to get a really good sense of when I was fertile and when I wasn't, and being able to use that for the purpose of contraception. But very soon after starting to practice these methods and learn about my body, the benefit for being able to use them for contraception in a way became the side benefit. And the primary benefit became really understanding my body and understanding where I was in my cycle and what the various symptoms I was having, whether I was feeling energetic and positive and creative, or whether I was feeling tired and introverted. And it really helped me understand these. And it felt like I had such a strong sense of, why didn't I start to learn this when I was much younger? This is so valuable. It was so empowering. It was like I suddenly had a great vision. So soon after that, I began working with the woman, Francesca Naish, who you mentioned a moment ago, who had counseled me and my partner then about these methods. And I was so keen. It was like an epiphany, really. And I really wanted to work with her. So we worked together and are still working together. So this is quite some time later, several decades. And so and really, I just felt then, and I feel now, it is so empowering for girls and for women, not just for conception and contraception, but just as a life skill to really understand their bodies. And it helps them make health decisions, social decisions, emotional decisions, and it's got a whole spirituality to it as well.
Yeah, yeah. I was just reading your website, and the thing that expressed it so well was the moon inside you.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk more about this, because I think it's so key, this connection with your natural rhythms and with your body, and actually with the entire universe. It's so huge.
Absolutely. And you really hit the nail on the head, because it's not just about just what's happening inside our own body. It's by understanding the rhythms of our own body, we are connecting with the rhythms of the universe. So you mentioned The Moon Inside You. This is a film by Diana Fabianova. I don't know if you've heard of her, familiar with her. And it came out in 2008. She's a Slovakian filmmaker, and she invited myself and Alexandra Pope, who is also one of my co-authors, to speak on her film. So this is why it's on my website, and it's a very beautiful film if everyone gets a chance to see it. But she's also just put out a new one called The Monthlies, which is just a half-hour film. The Moon Inside You is around 75 minutes. So The Monthlies is very much the same thing, but it's designed for girls. So it's a bit more fun and gentle for that particular age group.
I started parenting the gods when I learned that I was pregnant with a girl. Because I have been blessed with amazing birds, both of them, because of people like you, who allowed me to get in touch with my body and connect with my baby. And I wanted to pass on this knowledge to my daughter and to as many girls as possible, because I don't want them to suffer the same things that my mother suffered, the same things that I suffered, or that I conquered, that I didn't suffer, that my mother did. So I want to decrease that, or to break actually that chain of pain. And what I love with your work is that you actually work with girls. I love that you start really early. Tell me more about it. What inspired you to start with the girls so early, and how does that work? How do they react? Because I can imagine that some people will say, start talking about sex at such early age. How can you do that?
Sure. Several things are really important about that. The work I do with the girls between 10 and 12 and their mothers, one of the reasons I really like working with girls that age is because we get to separate sex ed in all that means and its fullness, like talking about sexual relationships and contraception and so on. I don't deal with that for a celebration day for girls. But at 10 to 12 years old, many girls are already changing. They're going through puberty or even starting their period in that age group. And so I really believe that in giving girls a really sort of positive, a celebratory introduction to this whole subject, really in almost all cases long before they're really thinking about relationships. So this is about their body, the changes in their body, what's happening, how they can understand it and manage it, and really opening and keeping the conversation going with their mothers as well. Because most women have not had a positive introduction to this themselves. Either they've had a negative one or a very, what I would call a vacuum, with very, very little information and very little of a positive conversation around their relationship with their own body. And when we think about it, we have a menstrual cycle, us women, from somewhere between 35 and 40 years of our life. We will have hundreds and hundreds of periods, and yet mostly the information we get, certainly at schools, is just a little bit around, ovulation, and if you don't conceive, then you'll have a period. Whereas for all of us in the Western world, the average woman will have 99.5% of her ovulations will end in a period rather than a conception and a baby. So we really need a much more healthy, wholesome investigation and approach to really understanding our cyclic body and how to really practice well-being on all levels for that. So for this reason, I started offering a celebration day for girls, and I was actually invited. It was in the year 2000 I began this, and I was invited by a local school who knew me and knew my work with natural fertility management, and they said, please, can you offer something for our girls and their mothers? So I, at that point, I hadn't trained as a teacher, and I had only done a little bit of youth work in terms of social work, so I was a little bit nervous, but I was very excited as well, because I even from the time when I first learned natural fertility management, I thought, why didn't I start to get this, really at the beginning? And I do feel that at that time we can really make a difference if we're able to give girls a factual but also a really positively framed introduction to their period. And doing this in a group, including their mothers, allows them to have a group experience and a group conversation, to hear women's stories, to hear about different cultures, and to do some fun craft and other activities, so that they have a sort of a warm and sharing and connected experience, rather than what most of us have had is feeling kind of very embarrassed and ashamed and somewhat isolated, often well into our 20s, about having a period. And from that time, which is kind of 15 years ago now, when I ran the first celebration day for girls, many girls and many mothers have come along to this workshop, and it's really encouraged me to feel, really positive about it, and really that it's very important work. I think we're able to help change that story for girls, but also for the mothers as well. They're often express that it's because they haven't had that experience. It's very hard for them, which is understandable, to give to their daughters. They don't know, they haven't had that modelling. Whereas once we have this fun day together, it really opens the door, the conversational door for the next stage. And girls very often go home and have a lot more questions for their mums over the next days and weeks, and they share this experience and they move to the next stage together, rather than in embarrassment kind of closing down somehow.
But it's so huge what you're describing, because the shame and the guilt and the feeling dirty comes from centuries.
Absolutely.
And through just having this conversation and making it light and creative, you break that, and you open a bridge of communication that will last forever, because these 10 years old, at some point they will be mothers, but now they have the door open to talk to their mothers. They don't need to have a traumatic experience by themselves. It's very powerful.
Yeah, I feel so, and I'm totally passionate and one-sided about it. I think it does really make a huge difference, and allows, in many countries, we're really concerned about girls' body image and self-esteem, and eating disorders, I'm sure is a factor there. And while there are many factors involved in this, I think one of the key ones that isn't being addressed in many places is their relationship to their reproductive organs, their reproductive processes, their genitals, and also their menstrual cycle. And if girls can if we can help them have a really healthy, wholesome, engaged, curious, positive self-care kind of approach to their own bodies, I really can see that it makes a huge difference in terms of self-esteem, body image, potential. It really tends to reduce problems like eating disorders and so on. And I also think when the time comes that they are starting to enter into intimate relationships, because they have this really wholesome relationship with their own body, they're in a better place to make healthy choices.
You bet, you bet. It's just, you're just talking to me. When I was 14, I was almost dying because of anorexia. And I was 14. So your girls are 10, 12. So it's perfect time to tell them that they are beautiful and perfect. And what happens is just, it's just perfect. It's divine. It's to be embraced.
Absolutely.
The other thing that you do that I love is married to this is the father celebrating daughters. This including the father. Tell us more about that. How does that work?
Sure. Well, father celebrating daughters obviously arose out of the Celebration Day for Girls, and what I felt was because the Celebration Day for Girls was a mother-daughter program, and a lot of fathers were really keen and concerned to be able to do something sort of positive and be present with their daughters. So Father Celebrating Daughters isn't a father-daughter program. It's really just for dads. Although, having said that, I think it would be really valuable to have a program for fathers and daughters. I just haven't gone there myself. So it's a time I spend with fathers to talk about their concerns, their anxieties about fathering daughters through the teenage years, and we talk about a whole lot of different things, but some of it is just really connecting back in with what their experiences of puberty were, because even though quite obviously boys and girls have many different things happening to their bodies, nonetheless. A lot of the emotions are similar. A lot of the emotions around, what's happening to me, and feeling really shy or embarrassed about the changes, or maybe not having someone to talk to about, the whole range of things. So if fathers can, dig back in their memory, reconnect with what some of that was, and even the stories about some of their own experiences, it helps them with their daughters and their sons, certainly, too, but to be able to remember the vulnerability and also the wonder of those times, and the wonder of what's happening for their bodies, because it does happen to all of us, and it helps fathers also be able to continue the conversation. And fathers I also talk to them about fathers have a very different role, of course, when their daughters are going through puberty and starting to menstruate than the mothers. But nonetheless, there's a lot of evidence that where fathers are present, it really is very supportive to girls if, in whatever way is appropriate to the particular father and daughter relationship, that fathers recognise and let their girls know that they're really proud of them, that they really that they congratulate them for the changes, for maybe getting their period, or they might show that by a gift or doing something special and different with their daughters, to let them know that that even though their bodies have changed from when they were 8 years old, and in some ways the relationship might change, or at least the outer aspect may change to some extent, that the fathers are really just as much there with them through those changes and really acknowledging that change. And there's a lot of evidence to suggest that this really is very supportive for girls' self-esteem as they move into the next few years and the next phase of their life.
Yeah, because if a gap is built with the father, a gap is built with men in general. And that's something that I just see everywhere. It's horrible. All the good men are taken, men are guilty of this and that, and men are the bad guys. if we start healing that relationship father-daughter, then we're going to see different men.
That's right, and we'll see different girls and young women in their relationship, and their confidence is different too. And one of the other things we talk about in the Father Celebrating Daughters program is as we talk about menstruation and the menstrual cycle and understanding things like premenstrual syndrome and so on, because for a lot of men, they, when they might have asked questions or been curious about girls and what's girls' experience of puberty and menstruation, very often they were stopped from getting information. They were treated like, well, you don't need to know, so don't worry about it. And I think this is because for many people are uncomfortable about and don't know how to talk about these things. So I have enormous compassion for, our parents and our grandparents. At the same time, if fathers, and often they have a lot of experience with menstruation because they've had sisters, mothers, girlfriends, wives, and they know more than girls realise. So if I can help fathers and daughters bridge that as well, then it can be really comfortable and supportive for girls to have fathers, to feel that their fathers understand, to feel that their fathers are on their side with this, rather than fathers who are uncomfortable or who may tease or who may withdraw because they don't know how to be with their girls now.
Yeah. Oh,
so the program with fathers, varies a lot. It really depends what fathers bring and what their questions are. But we have some great conversations, and it's a lot of fun. And a lot of men express that they've really learned more than they've ever learned about this subject. And they're really happy and often go home and have a lot more questions for their wives and are really wanting to understand and engage with women's experience of menstruation and the menstrual cycle much more.
Oh my God, this is such blessed work that you're doing. It's, seriously, when I got pregnant, the two pregnancies, I learned so much. And I was beyond the 40s, and I'm a highly educated woman. I went to university and I was so ignorant. And me being a curious woman, and I was so ignorant. Men who are just shut to the door, that they are not allowed to know all these things, they don't know so much. And if we open the door and we let them into our intimacy, then we are allowing them to be our intimate partner with us. This should be definitely done with all men, because otherwise we continue having this gap in which men don't belong in the intimacy of the family.
That's right. Yeah.
I say
absolutely. Yeah. And I think, if we think about in intimate relationships, and husband and wife, mothers and fathers together in a family situation, by having greater understanding and by the woman and the man around the menstrual cycle and the changes the woman experiences through the cycle, I think it contributes enormously to the awareness and positivity of their relationship as well. Because I think a lot of, there tends to be too many jokes around about PMS and what women do and how crazy it is. But this doesn't help us. It doesn't help men understand women or women understand themselves. Whereas, so this very often for the Father Celebrating Daughters, we do end up talking about PMS. And it's a conversation men often haven't been able to have with women in a really open, objective way to understand it better and to get a bit of a handle on it. And often men who've had experiences of being with a woman who has significant premenstrual stress or premenstrual syndrome, and they don't know what to do. They don't know how to be with that and what they can do and what they can do to help. So they really go away with a few extra skills and tools, and are really grateful for that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. This will make a huge difference for the relationships in general. It's just so huge. I can see so many examples, so many ways. Um, I would love that everybody in the world goes to your workshops, but it's just physically impossible, and that's something that you're doing brilliantly. That Jane is not just giving the workshops herself, but she is expanding this by empowering other facilitators to learn how to do this. But still, with that army of facilitators, uh, still there will be people hungry for you who are not able to get there. Do you have something in your toolkit, in your experience, that they can start doing that now, and maybe something for the mom, and maybe something for the dad?
Sure. My website has information and tools and a little clip about the Celebration Day for Girls, which at least gives people a sense of where I'm coming from and a sense of a different approach. But of course, I wrote the books that I wrote specifically to be able to spread the word. And in the case for girls, the 10 to 12-year-olds or girls going through puberty, a Celebration Day for Girls, A Blessing, Not a Curse, was the book that I wrote. Would you like me to hold it up?
Yeah, sure, please.
Okay, I put them right here in case. So this is A Blessing, Not a Curse. And I wrote this. This came out in 2002, so it's been around for a little while. And just a couple of months ago, it came out with this beautiful cover in Czech.
Oh, beautiful.
So I'm hoping we can get it out in more languages too. And this is particularly for mothers and daughters. And it's really expanding all that we've just spoken about, expanding a sense of and looking at exactly what is going on in the menstrual cycle, and in a very objective, evidence-based way, but also framing it positively. And one of the things I talk about in there that's very interesting, there was some research done by a PhD candidate some years ago called Emily Martin, and she looked at a whole lot of medical texts. So these were texts that trainee doctors were using that are pride themselves on being these texts, these writers of these texts pride themselves on being very objective and very scientific. And what she found is that they were very objective, very scientific, except when it came to the menstrual cycle and menstruation especially. And the words used were very negative. So it was treated like waste and discard and necrosis and death and wasted potential for conception and all this kind of thing. And in the same text, when it was talking about spermatogenesis, which is the production of sperm, it was using heroic language, words like amazing and prolific and abundant, and it was just shocking.
Yeah, no bias whatsoever.
Sorry?
No bias whatsoever.
No. So it's just, and I put that in the book as a way to illustrate that we're not starting from a neutral place. We have really thousands of years of in many cases, not everywhere, of course, but in many places, a very negative misunderstanding about what menstruation is. So we need to be aware of what that story is before, so that we're aware of it within ourselves, we're aware of it as we start to approach our daughters. And then it gives us the power to reframe that, because none of us wants to pass on these changes that girls are experiencing in their beautiful bodies that are very the natural changes. Yeah. We don't want to pass it on as a curse. We want to pass it on as a blessing. So the book goes through a whole lot of ways to do that. And we look at different cultures and approaches that have happened in different cultures, ways that you can actually celebrate menarche. In some are some people might be really up for, a whole complex ritual and be really, that will work in their family and work in their community. But I also talk about very simple things. And for most of us who are women now, even someone genuinely, warmly, and in a heartfelt way saying to us, congratulations, would have made a profound difference to our experience. Yes. So anything adding to that, and it might be, buying some flowers. It might be, you get to have your favorite dinner that night, and the family, you might have a special red candle, and the family acknowledges this incredible change that's just happened. Some girls like to be, quite quiet during, as they get familiar with having a period. But there might be a celebration, sometime in the next few months with their mom and their aunties and their cousins, and they can do something special together. They might just have a little party, they might get some gifts, and they might say something special that they love about this girl. They might go camping together. The dad might bring home some red roses for his daughter. There's really infinite possibilities. So I talk about these possibilities in the book. There's also a chapter about natural therapies for some of the problems girls might experience with their period. So whether they have heavy bleeding or irregular cycles, there's some really good natural therapies that are easy to use at home. Of course, I also talk about if there's a degree of seriousness, it's important then to go to a health professional and to keep looking until you find someone you're really happy with, because we don't have to live with these problems as, it's just a curse. And I really, in this life, I really like to separate menstruation and the menstrual cycle with menstrual problems. They're not the same thing. Often we think of them as the same thing, but they're not. They're two different things. There's menstruation and the menstrual cycle, and menstrual problems are health problems, and they need to be understood what they're about. Very often lifestyle factors, there might be genetic factors in some cases, physiological factors, but they need to be addressed so that the girl or the woman can experience menstrual well-being, which is a very positive and very powerful way to be in a female body.
Yeah. Oh God! Wow, I love your answer. And again, we're on the same page. The answer basically to all the problems, almost in general, is first learn. Get yourself out there, investigate, get your curiosity. And here you have a very good resource. The books of Jane, and they are available now if you speak English, that you do, and if you speak Czech, that's available. And be open for the possibilities. It is not an illness. It is the best state of being of women. I love it. I love it. So, how can I take you for the next piece? Maybe I edit this bit because I'm a bit too excited. So maybe I ask you the last and the most difficult question. You have been very generous with your knowledge, and now is for people to go out there and get informed and get more details so that they can actually take action. But asking your intuition, what will be that last thing that you need to tell them, the thing that will propel them to improve that relationship with their daughters and with their with their being as women?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a beautiful question. Thank you for that. I think fundamentally, Blanca, where I come from is that if women investigate and notice how they think and feel about their own body, notice how they talk to themselves about menstruation and the menstrual cycle, and just very gently look to learn more about their experience of their body, and if they can, look to how can I make friends with my body? How can I make friends with menstruation? And even if they feel like it's a difficult thing and they can just take a little step, or even if something comes up in their mind that they could do that's doable, maybe if they struggle a bit with before their period comes, or they feel tired when they have their period, and even if their life is very busy and they have a job and family and so on, just looking for something they can do for themselves that just opens up a window and gives them a bit more space at that time, a bit more rest at that time, and learning to ask for help. Just very gently taking those steps, even though I'm just talking now about what they can do for themselves, if they can do that, and whether they talk to their daughters about that process that I just spoke about or not, it will still be very real for them. It will help them start to change their relationship with their own body, and this will be modelling for their daughter. Because we can't say to our girls, you should have a good relationship with your body, unless we are on that journey ourselves. And we don't have to be in a perfect place with it by any means. But if we are open to exploring and examining and developing awareness and becoming a friend for ourselves, this will be a very powerful message for our girls.
Celebrating being a woman.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Yeah, this is so huge. You know, I just think of the journeys of my grandma, my mother, myself, my daughter. It is the hair, it is the dress, it is what it means to be a woman, and being in that journey. You are perfect, and you are not perfect. This
absolutely
the perfection of imperfection.
Yeah, and there's power in the journey, and we have our realizations and our shifts. It's an ongoing thing, but just beautiful to be engaged with that journey. I mean, I've been working with natural fertility management for 3 decades now, and I'm still learning. I'm still learning information, but also learning about my own body, because my body is changing. And I love that, having that curiosity and continuing to find ways to have a positive, healthy self-care and really positive regard for my body. And then that contributes to my life enormously.
Absolutely. Oh, Jane, thank you so much for being here with us. I'm absolutely delighted of this conversation. Much appreciated. Guys,
thank you, Gunther. It's been terrific speaking with you too.
Thank you.
And your site and your work is just is so inspirational. I'm really thrilled that you're doing it.
Thank you very much, Jane. Thank you. I appreciate it. Guys, I don't know you. I love this conversation with Jane. I learned so much. I like it. Please also like it. Give it this thumbs up. And share it with all your friends, share it with all those mothers of mothers, with all those fathers of mothers, with all these women who need a hug, and tell them that they are perfect. And please come to our website and share with us how do you celebrate the feminine? How do you celebrate your daughter? Or maybe, what are your challenges with celebrating the feminine? What are your challenges with celebrating your daughter? Share with us, and once you are there in our website, parentingthegods.com, join our mailing list, because there are many other resources that I cannot share here in video that I want to give to you. And once again, thank you very much for being here, and do remember that the only language that your children understand is love. Speak from love, act from love, be love.